Let me tell you how we made it through them cold winters when help was miles away. Doctors wouldn't come down our road even if you begged them yourself. Back then, winter wasn't something you complained about. Winter was something you survived. We didn't have urgent care, pharmacies, or nurses on call. We had wood stoves, quilts, old knowledge, and each other. But we still survived it. Not because life was easy, not because we had doctors, but because we knew what to do. Let me start from the beginning. When the cold first rolled in, the women noticed it before the men even grabbed their coats. We felt it in our bones, in the cracks of the floorboards, in the way the morning fog hugged the ground like a blanket too thin to help anybody. That's when we started preparing the house for battle. Because winter was a war, and we ain't have no soldiers but ourselves. The first rule of winter survival was simple: protect the lungs. If your lungs stayed open and warm, you lived. If they didn't, sickness set in fast. We sealed every gap in the house with rags and old fabric. We hung quilts against the windows to stop the wind from sneaking in. And we kept a kettle steaming on the stove, not for cooking, but for breathing. Dry, cold air is dangerous. It tightens the chest, dries out the throat, and makes mucus thick like glue. That steam kept the airways open. It kept the cough from digging its claws too deep. Then we prepared the remedies, not when somebody got sick, but before sickness even showed its face. We sliced onions thin and layered them with brown sugar in jars so the syrup would be ready. Onion syrup is a natural expectorant. It breaks up mucus, calms the throat, and softens a deep cough. Children took it in a spoon. Adults took it in a cup. Nobody liked it, but everybody knew it worked. When a cough rattled the chest too hard, we used mustard plasters. Mustard brings heat and blood flow to the surface. It opens the lungs from the outside in. We mixed mustard powder with flour and warm water, spread it across cloth, and laid it right on the chest. 10 minutes. Not more. Too long will blister the skin. But done right, it loosened mucus better than anything you could buy today. For fevers, we treated them steady and slow. We never tried to shock the body. We dipped cloth in vinegar and wrapped it around the ankles and wrists. Vinegar cools by evaporation, not by force, so the fever drops without hurting the nervous system. If the fever was stubborn, we added peppermint tea. Peppermint opens pores, helps the body sweat, and supports natural cooling. You see, fever ain't the enemy. Fever is the body fighting. The danger is when the body gets too dry to keep fighting. So we pushed warm fluids all day: broth, lemon water, peppermint tea, weak ginger tea. Hydration was the real medicine, even if we didn't have a name for it. Now, if a cough turned wet and deep, the kind where you hear it before you see it, we brought out mullein tea. Mullein coats the lungs, calms spasms, and softens mucus so it can move. 2 cups a day made a difference you could feel in a single night. And when somebody couldn't breathe easy lying down, we heated fire bricks in the stove, wrapped them in flannel, and pressed them against the chest or feet. Heat opens the bronchial tubes. Heat loosens congestion. Heat gives the lungs room to move. We also use garlic, crushed, steeped in warm water, mixed with honey if we had it. Garlic fights infection, thins mucus, and warms the body from the inside out. A teaspoon every few hours kept things from turning dangerous. To keep circulation strong, because circulation slows in the cold, we use ginger and cayenne. Ginger warms the blood. Cayenne increases blood flow to the skin and lungs. Together, they kept the immune system awake, alert, and ready. But survival wasn't just herbs. Survival was also food. When someone got sick, nobody gave them heavy meals. That drains energy from the immune system. We gave broth, slow simmered broth, rich with minerals. Bones, onions, scraps of carrot or celery if they hadn't gone old. If we had collards or turnips, that pot liquor was medicine on its own. Pot liquor holds every nutrient that leaves the greens: iron, magnesium, potassium, copper, calcium. A warm cup steadied the body and kept strength up. You ain't lived until you've seen someone sick, drifting in and out of fever, then sipping real broth and watching the color come back into their cheeks. That broth wasn't just food, it was hope. And when a neighbor knocked on your door with a pot wrapped in a towel, that was medicine too. You'd hear that knock in the middle of the night and open the door to see somebody standing there in the cold with their breath showing and a pot of something hot in their hands. Chicken broth, fresh greens, cornbread soft as a pillow. The whole house smelled better once that pot came in. That broth, whew, that broth was life. We made it slow, bones, onions, herbs from the yard, simmering until it turned cloudy and rich. If you could drink broth, you could survive the night. And if you could eat a little cornbread with it, the elders would nod and say, "Thank you, Lord, they gonna pull through." Another rule, nobody suffered alone. If a child had trouble breathing, the whole neighborhood knew before sunset. Somebody brought castor oil. Somebody brought lemons. Somebody brought blankets. Somebody else took over the farm chores so the sick person's mama could sit by the bed all night. We kept a house warm by teamwork. We kept a body alive by teamwork. We didn't wait on a doctor because we knew he wasn't coming. At night, when the wind howled and the stove glowed red, we'd sit near the fire with the sick child wrapped in quilts. Stress tightens the lungs. Fear makes breathing harder. Comfort helps the body open. Winter nights made you listen to breathing, to coughing, to the way a child swallowed their tea. If breathing sounded shallow, we sat them up. If cough sounded deep, we gave Mullein. If fever rose, we cooled them slow. If chills hit, we warmed them steady. And when the worst passed, when the coughing softened, when the fever broke, when the child slept without moaning, we didn't celebrate too early. Winter kills by relapse. We watched them closely, kept the room warm, kept the air moist, kept their belly full of broth and warm water. The truth is, child, we weren't guessing. We understood the body in a way folks today don't. We knew cold tightens the lungs. We knew warm moisture opens them. We knew circulation helps healing. We knew hydration stops fevers from turning deadly. We knew digestion must stay moving for the immune system to work. We didn't call it physiology. We called it paying attention. People today forget that the land and the body used to speak to each other. We listened. We had to. Winters shaped our communities. Cold weather forced us inside together, forced us to work as one, forced us to take sickness seriously before it got dangerous. And when someone finally got better, when they could sit up on their own, take a deep breath without pain, or walk to the stove for a sip of tea, that's when we knew we had beaten winter one more time. Not with doctors, not with medicine bottles, but with knowledge, heat, herbs, broth, and love. And that's how we made it, child. That's how we survived winters with no doctor at all. What I told you today was only a piece of what our people knew. If you want the full winter survival guide, the remedies, the early warning signs, the relapse rules, everything, I put it all in the book for you. You can get it below.